So just a few days ago, Konami came out with Master Duel's first ever ban list. Well, calling it a ban list might be a bit of a stretch, but this list did contain some pretty impactful hits to some of the strongest decks in the game, such as Lyrilusc receiving a hit to Cobalt Sparrow. Now I see a lot of people out there making fun of this ban list, essentially saying that it's going to do absolutely nothing to hurt any of the decks affected. Well, I'm here to back up my boys at Konami and prove you all wrong. I took a deck that's going to be hit by this ban list, applied the ban list to it early, then went straight onto the rank ladder, and then just to show you guys just how wrong you were, I went on a 15-game win streak. Wait.
Oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. But bird's a word. Oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. Well, a bird is a word.
So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I go through the list, if you're enjoying today's video, finding it useful in any way, or just want to see more content like this, make sure to let me know by leaving a like on today's video and considering subscribing to the channel whilst you're down there. Especially if you're a frequent visitor to the channel and still haven't subscribed yet. I am looking to get to 100k this year, so I'd really appreciate any subs I can get. Alright, let's get into the deck list. Now as per normal, I won't be going through every individual card here as it's much easier for me to go through them as I just play them during the gameplay, but I will go through basically how this deck functions. So this deck has two parts to it, it has the Harpie and the Lyrilusc. We'll start with the Harpie. So the Harpie part is basically based around two monsters, Channeler and Perfumer. Channeler can search for the Perfumer, and Perfumer when you summon it can search for Egotist. This just summons a Harpie straight from the deck. This allows you to go into a whole plethora of extra deck monsters, and they happen to be level 4 by the way, that's important to note. So these cards can go into things like Harpie Lady, which is just a bit of removal. You can go into Barren Blossom, which can special summon Winged Beast from hand. You have Simorgh, which summons Winged Beast from deck. And you have, as I said, level 4, so you can go into the Utopia package of Utopia with Utopia Double, which as you guys probably know, searches for double or nothing, and makes this card have essentially 10,000 attack. Very nasty and makes for some very easy OTKs, as you'll see in the gameplay. The other side of the deck is the Lyrilusc. Now Lyrilusc is based off a bunch of just level 1 Winged Beast monsters that have a ton of special summon effects and a ton of extending cards, which leads to a absolute fuck ton of level 1 Xyz monsters, including Starling, which is a bit of an extender in itself. You have assembled Nightingale, which can attack multiple times directly, does a bit of damage, and can make your cards unable to take battle damage, unable to be destroyed, as well as a bunch of other stuff. It also allows you to go into things like Ensemblue, which is very good to summon on turn 1, as it just stops your opponent being able to special summon monsters basically at all. And because you summon so many rank 1 monsters, it also allows you to go into Utopic Future, which requires 2 Xyz monsters with the same rank. That allows you to then go into Utopic Draco, which is a massive boss monster which is not only just indestructible, but also comes with a nice little monster negate. Alright guys, that's going to do it for the decklist portion of the video. The rest of the video will be gameplay with commentary showcasing the decklist in action. Now remember, the entirety of this decklist is typed out in the description down below, so if you missed any of the cards in here, just go down there, you'll see it down there. Alright guys, let's get into the gameplay. Alright, so I have 5 replays to show you guys today. Of the 5 replays, I have a bunch of examples of going first, and a bunch of examples of going second, because unlike most of the decks in this game, this deck's actually really good at doing both. It's definitely a lot better at going first, but it's actually really playable going second, which is kind of unique, so yeah, let's get into it. So this is the replay showing off the main combo for the deck. You won't be able to do this every game as it kind of requires a pretty specific hand of a good Harpie side and a good Lyrilusc side, but if you do happen to open a bunch of Lyrilusc and a bunch of Harpie stuff, you can make for a pretty damn powerful end board. Alright, so we summon Perfumer, Perfumer search for an Egotist, we then use the Egotist, summoning out Harpie Lady 1 from deck, then use the other Egotist, because it's not actually once per turn, to summon out the other one. This then lets us go into Blossom. Blossom can special summon a Winged Beast from hand. This card when summoned from hand lets you search for your Lyrilusc spell from deck. Activating Beryl searches for a Lyrilusc from the deck, and then can special summon a Lyrilusc with a different name from the one searched, straight from hand. In this case, you summon out your other dude. Then you can Xyz into Starling. Starling can detach a material to search for a card, also on summon it gives a bit of attack to something else. Before we do anything else, we're going to special summon out Simorgh using the 2 and the 1 on board. This is because I wanted to use the effect of your Blossom Engrave, which allows you to draw a card, then send a card straight from hand back into the deck. This meant that if, in case I drew a card, so I wouldn't have to have searched it with my Lyrilusc. Also, it meant that if I had other targets for Sapphire, in case I wanted to do that now, it's just something that's really good to do before I did the search. I'm going to search for Nervall. Swallow can special summon a winged beast straight from hand, in this case we can summon Nervall. Nervall can banish monsters straight from the graveyard to special summon out a winged beast straight from the extra deck, or in this case we're just going to summon out our Ominous Omen, using the 4 cards we banished. Both of them are level 1, so we can go into another Starling. Starling isn't actually a once per turn, so we use its effects again to search for our Canary. Then we're going to go straight into our Utopic Future. Future can then go straight into our Draco Future. And finally, we're going to use our Canary. Now make sure you use Canary last, as Canary, its effects don't let you link summon for the rest of the turn. It only lets you Exceed summon. So use this card last, otherwise you won't be able to summon out your other 2 big boys. Canary summons out a Lyrilusc straight from the grave, which lets you then go into an Ensemble Robin. Now because we used your Sapphire as material, you can then add a Lyrilusc as material to this card. And this card in graveyard can just attach itself anyway, just because it can. Then during the end phase, Simorgh special summons a winged beast straight from the deck. And this is your end board, a board that ends on a monster negate, which is a monster that's already immune to basically all destruction anyway. You have your Ensemble, which is a not once per turn effect, that whenever my opponent tries to special summon a monster, I can detach a material, return it to hand. So this is essentially 4 returns to hand of any special summons my opponent tries to do. We also have our Apex Avian, which is just an Omni negate for if your opponent tries to just activate anything. I also have Simorgh, which allows me to special summon a winged beast monster during every end phase, including my opponent's end phase. And because of that, we have our Tri-Brigade on board. So we special summon a winged beast straight from the deck during my opponent's end phase, and then we can use this guy's effect to banish a card on board. So a very powerful end board. But like I said, you won't be able to do this that often, as it requires a pretty specific starting hand. But even if you just end on like 1 Draco and an Avian, that's generally a good enough end board to beat most decks. So as you can see, I think my opponent just doesn't even bother with this one. Which I don't blame him, this is a pretty nasty end board. Alright, next replay. Now this replay I'm going to have to I'm gonna have to skip ahead a little bit as the gameplay starts. As you'll see, I'm kind of playing against a Synchro deck, which is a guy that goes through, I think, what was it? 11 or 12 of his extra deck in the first turn, and I think he has like 11 cards left in his deck by the end of it, so yeah. But basically the whole point of this replay is I want to show how powerful Featherstorm is. So for those of you that don't know what Featherstorm does, basically if you control Winged Beast monster until the end of the turn, you can negate all monster effects your opponent tries to activate. And that's like, not just the cards he has on board, that is any monster effect he tries to use for the rest of the turn. Now the really powerful effect part of this card is that if you control Harpie monster, you can activate this card straight from your hand. Oh god, I didn't actually have this fast forwarded. Yeah, basically I can activate this straight from my hand. So if my opponent has any negates on board, so if he has like an Appaloosa or something, I can just activate this card in response to his Appaloosa and negate it. It also works on hand traps, so if my opponent has a Max C or tries to activate an Ash Blossom, I can negate those as well. So this card is really good going first, as it can just lock out my opponent from monster effects the rest of his turn, and it's also really good going second, as you're about to see. Now, I'm going to fast forward a bit here, so yeah, see you in a second. Alright, so we've now reached the end of my opponent's turn. As you can see, he has 3 cards left in his extra deck, and he's got 11 cards left in the main deck. This man took 40 years to have his turn, summoned a trillion stuff, 31 cards in the graveyard, and after all that, he literally only ended on 1 negate, so I don't know what to say about that. But my turn started, and the first thing I did was I normal summoned my Harpie Lady. This is very important. Now I know you normally see this card in hand, you'd see that it requires you to have no monsters on board so you can just special summon it out, but in this case you don't want to do that, because you want to have your Featherstorm activated as soon as possible. So I'm going to summon my Channeler, and then I'm going to do the rest of my turn. Activate my Egotist. He has an Ash Blossom. Now, under normal circumstances, you can actually activate the Featherstorm to negate that Ash Blossom, but I don't want my Featherstorm to be negated by his Quasar, so I'm gonna just not do that. I then try to use my Bird Call. This is when he activates his Quasar, and we then negate it. And this also, like I said, negates all monster effects my opponent tries to use for the rest of the turn. So he sends a Fairy Tail Snow to the grave, which as you'll see, is actually a quick effect that likes to flip monsters face down. So he would actually had more disruption in this turn if this card wasn't so goddamn broken. So I special summon my boy using the spell. He then tries to flip face down, but in this case, it doesn't matter. It's an activated effect, so it gets negated. This card summoned from hand allows me to special summon another Lyrilusc, and then he just, yeah, he just concedes. Alright, third replay. Now I think this replay is showcasing the Lyrilusc side of the deck without any Harpie interaction at all. I think that's what this one is. So a lot of you guys are probably familiar with just about what this is about to do, because you would have seen like standard Lyrilusc decks. Oh, never mind, this is not that at all. Never mind, that's a different replay. This is actually, I think, just showcasing the Harpie side of the deck, actually. Alright, so my guy's gonna do a bunch of annoying zombie stuff, bunch of other stuff, uses the reasoning, gets only one card out of it, but allows him to at least synchro summon into a Zeta, and then I think into a Barren de Fleur, I think he goes into. So yeah, another example of going second against at least one negate. Not the strongest of end boards, but it's just a replay to show off my deck, alright? Alright. So you're going to special summon our Turquoise because we have no monsters on board, which when special summon from hand can summon another monster, summoning out the Celestine, or Celestine. Cannot pronounce that word at all. This allows me to link exceed someone straight into Starling. Activate its effect. Finally my opponent decides to use his negate. Now I actually haven't used my normal summon yet, because that was all special summons. So, I can simply summon out my Channeler, go into my Harpie Lady, search my Egotist, special summon out my other Harpie, use my Bird Call to search for my Beryl. And remember, like I said, we always want to use this card last, so we're not going to use it yet. Go into our Utopia double. Actually, in this case, I didn't even do any link summoning, but it's just good habit to make sure to use this card last. So use the 2 level 4s, we go into Utopia double, searching for double or nothing, and summoning out a Utopia. Now, in double or nothing allows me to, well, first of all, Utopia double doubles the attack of the Utopia we summon. Then double or nothing, if I negate the attack of a monster, it then allows you to swing again with that monster. So, as you'll see in a sec, once we get into the battle phase, I'll do a bunch of other stuff first. Summoning out my Nightingale. So then I can swing in my Utopia, negate his own attack using the Utopia effect, which then allows me to activate double or nothing, doubling this attack to 10,000, doing a shit ton of damage to my opponent. Then we have enough damage on board just to lethal him off. Alright. So that was a good showing of mostly the Harpie side of the deck. Alright, as well as a good way of showing you how we can play through Disruption. Alright, next replay. So this must be the pure Lyrilusc side of the deck, I think. One of these replays is, and I'm pretty sure it's this one. Alright. Oh yeah, it's definitely this one. Alright, so we activate our Bird Call, searching for our Sparrow. This allows us to special summon another monster from hand with a different name. This time we search for, special summon Turquoise, which then special summons out the Cobalt. Cobalt searches for a monster, in this case we search for Nervall. You can see summoning to Starling. Starling searches for Wagtail. Sapphire can special summon itself from hand along with one of the other Lyriluscs, if you control a winged beast. So that's important to note as well, because this has added synergy to Harpies, so if I had like a Harpie Lady on board, I could have special summoned this card from hand as well. Summon out another Starling. This Starling is going to be searching for our Canary. Once again, going into our Utopic future, then going into our Draco. Now as you can see, it's generally pretty good to do this first. Summon out your Draco and summon out your... If you notice your opponent has any kind of interaction that they're just not using, it's generally pretty good to go into your future, then into your Draco first, because that means for the rest of the turn, if he tries to activate any of those hand traps, you can just negate them. So it forces them to use them early, like my opponent did here. In this case, I had Called by the Grave anyway, so it doesn't matter, but yeah, keep that in mind. If you can summon the boss monster out first, it's generally pretty good to do so. Summon our Draco. Normal summon on Nervall, because keep in mind, I summoned this without doing a normal summon, by the way. Summoned out Nervall, banishing 3, special summoning Simorgh. Canary, using it at the very end. To then go into our 3 material, I think it's 3 material? Let me add, yeah, 3 material, Ensemblue, and special summoning out this card during the end phase. So not as powerful, because we don't have the other big Link 4 on board, but still a pretty decent end board. Opponent tries to use a monster, we're just going to negate that effect. Opponent then tries to use a spell, and then we're going to use the Omni Negate. So keep that in mind, by the way, you only have one Omni Negate, so this card can't negate Spell and Trap cards, so generally you want to use this negate before you use this one. Even though this negate is technically a stronger negate as it can yoink your opponent's monsters and stuff, this is the only Omni Negate you have, so you generally try to save this one as late as you can. And yeah. I think from there my opponent just realizes he's a bit doomed. Alright, very final replay. I'm actually kind of sad that in the second replay I showed you guys, using the Harpie trap card, that my opponent conceded, because there's a really cool OTK I wanted to show you. I don't really remembering this now, but I think I might mention it. So in that second replay, when I ended on that end board, because my opponent actually had a 4,000 attack monster on board, I could have actually just summoned out this Lyrilusc, then summoned out another copy of it, and this card, all battle damage you take from battles involving this Xyz monster is also inflicted to your opponent. So this card plus the other card swinging into your opponent's monster will just do 8k damage. And to avoid taking damage yourself, I could also have just summoned out I had enough cards for this, summoned out my Nightingale as well. So I could have just summoned out a monster, which as a quick effect can make it so I take no battle damage, and 2 monsters that swing into my opponent for 4,000, then another 4,000 damage. So, and it's kind of random I mentioned that here, but I don't know, I feel like it's a cool little interaction. You don't often see that often from Lyrilusc. Alright, so this is a pure Harpie replay. So we summon our Channeler, summoning out our other Harpie, searching for Egotist, doing some more summoning, going into Blossom. Blossom special summons a Winged Beast from hand, which we then link off into our Simorgh. Important to note, I kept the Harpie Lady on board, because obviously I have the trap card in hand. This allows me to draw and then send a card back into the deck, setting our Called by the Grave and summoning out our Apex. So fairly weak board, but because we have this card in hand, it's not so weak anymore. So opponent tries to summon out an Indigo. He actually tributes off my Only Negate, which is a bit rough. I'm only Omni Negate. Does a bunch of stuff, tries to use this effect. Unfortunately for him, we have Featherstorm, so we just negate that. And then from there, we can use our Simorgh, special summon out our Harpie Lady during the end phase to search for another Egotist. And you can probably see where this is going. He only has a 600 attack monster on board. So, Egotist, summon out another level 4. Xyz summon into Utopia double. Utopia double, search, special summon. And we can even do a little bit of Lyrilusc stuff as well, summoning our Canary. To give ourselves a little bit more disruption as well, so we summon this out, go into our Robin. And swing into his monster, double the attack, go straight to 10,000 attack, and absolutely arse blast this poor guy. Alright, and that's going to do it for today's replays. I hope you guys enjoyed them. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you guys for watching. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob?
Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis.
Oh.